have a look at what we call communication. What is that? Basically, communication is where we try to send data or communicate information from point A to point B, right? And in so doing, we have what we call a communications channel, right? A pathway through which we can send and receive data, right? So channel can be wired or it can be wireless. Now, if you refer to your slides, there will be several wired versions of a channel. For example, you will see the twisted pair, right? You also see the coaxial, and then you'll see what we call the fiber optics cable. For the wireless, on the other hand, you'll also learn three things. The first one being infrared, then we have radio frequency, followed by microwave. Right? Now, a channel. Again, a channel is a pathway that we can send and receive data. We have physical ones or wired ones. The first one being twisted pair. Basically, we have two thin wires and they're twisted together, right? And having been these thin wires or cables, what happens is that we have a rather limited data that can be sent through from one point to another. Here is the case of point A to point B, right? We improve on the twisted pair by having what we call the coaxial cable. Coaxial is where instead of having the two cables like this and it's twisted, where the axis is going all chaotic, here we have a cable with a core. Then we have around the core we have some insulation around the core, and then we have braided wire like that, braided cable. Now, braided wires as well as the core goes in the same axis, so we call it coaxial, right? And using a coaxial cable, what happens is that we can have much more data going through compared to twisted pair. But of course, coaxial would be more expensive, right? Example of coaxial is you can see your cable TV. Try and look up for your Astro cables. You have this white cable which is slightly thicker than your regular cables, right? Then we have what we call fiber optics. Fiber optics or optical fiber. What happens here is that you have glass or plastic materials which can reflect light. Right? So what happens is that you have this pathway, a tunnel, and you can actually send your data in terms of pulses of light, so it gets reflected inside the tunnel. So this is very fast, considering that light can be 3 times 10 to the 8 meters per second. That's really fast, right? So this is optical fiber, and with optical fiber we have real broadband. Now we'll have a look at the wireless ones. The first one is infrared, right? You might or might not have, I would like to think that you might have used your TV remote. Of course you might have used that, right? Now if you use your TV remote, what happens is that it uses a wireless communication, meaning by pushing a button on your TV remote, you can actually do something with your TV, television set, you can actually control it, right? That means that, and if you put a hand or something, some blocking at the front of your TV remote, what happens is that you will not have the remote controlling the TV anymore, right? So infrared has that kind of characteristics, meaning it has somewhat limited distance, and you must have a clear line of sight to be able to send and receive data. For example, in the case of your TV remote, right? So that is infrared, followed by radio frequency. Now, there are several versions of radio frequency. I think you might have heard of the Bluetooth. This is one type of radio frequency. Then some of you might also have heard of Wi-Fi. I think all of you have heard of Wi-Fi because we have Wi-Fi at help, right? So both of these are radio frequency type of communication, meaning to say that they use different frequencies, right? So with radio frequency, you don't need a direct line of sight, and depending on the type of radio frequency you use, you might achieve longer distance, let's say 300 meters, or shorter distance, let's say 30 feet or 10 meters, right? Next is microwave. This is even this is using very short frequencies, right? And hence, the distance might go further than Wi-Fi. The speed might go better as well. It might have better speed, right? So that is microwave. So these are the three different. In fact, it can accommodate satellite communication, right? So these are the three different versions of wireless communication channel, and these are the three different versions of wired communications channel, right? And we'll move on further on how these channels can be subscribed to, meaning if you want to get access to the internet or other networks besides your own, you can actually say to a certain service company, say, hey, I want internet connectivity, and then they'll provide you with some kind of communication.